Here we go. Let's move on to Michigan. Okay. Sharon Moore enters year one with a team coming off a national championship win. Jim Harbaugh leaves, takes his coordinators with him. Well, I guess his defensive coordinator, because Sharon Moore was the offensive coordinator.
And they didn't. Did anyone take the special teams coordinator? What happened to Jay Harbaugh?
I don't know.
Oh,
I don't
is it
know.
is he out in Arizona now?
But he's not there anymore because JB Brown is a special teams coordinator now.
Oh, he's the Seahawks. He's with McDonald, Mike McDonald, I think.
Those Michigan dudes sticking together. So yeah, I mean the story of this Michigan team this year, and if you're following the narratives, right, it's that wow, this defense is still going to be really good. In fact, it is going to be one of the best defenses in the country. The offense is where you have the question marks, right? And you got enough from that offense last year from JJ McCarthy and that run game and that offensive line, and some of those receivers that both of them were drafted, Cornelius Johnson and Roman Wilson, both of them gone drafted to the NFL. There's just a lot of question marks. Blake Corum gone, like lots and lots of question marks about the offensive side of the football. And in my opinion, the schedule's pretty easy. So, aside from that one out of conference game that you're circling over there, when you head over to, or when you get Texas at home, yeah, we'll see, man. And we'll start in the quarterback room, I guess. Sorry, I'm getting a little off track here. But
Wait, real quick, can I give a disclaimer?
oh
It
yeah.
is August 7th right now. A couple days ago, some stuff came out about Sharon Moore getting suspended potentially, and Jim Harbaugh getting his
Oh
nose.
yeah.
Like we're gonna see, we don't know what happens in the future, right? We're just assuming that no one's getting suspended, and Sharon Moore's gonna be playing, coaching most of these games. There's not gonna be a postseason ban that's put on Michigan, and that's gonna change a lot of things. We're assuming that in a vacuum right now, everything just happens and it's gonna be fine for Michigan, and hopefully it should be. By the way, I hope they don't punish the players in this new staff, even though Sharon Moore.
Was
Well,
on it.
we'll see. But regardless, though, yeah, like you said, quarterback room, Alec Orgy? Question mark.
Yeah, I mean, like they didn't ask him to throw the ball, and I think people are holding that against him, like, oh, he can't throw the ball, he can't. Like, if you have Alex Orgy, right, and JJ McCarthy, why the hell would you ever throw the ball with Alex Orgy?
No, you don't.
You
And
don't.
and
Now,
these,
now,
there's a threat of it, which is nice because he's a quarterback, right? But McCarthy is a first round, top 10, top 11 pick, right? He special talent at the quarterback position. You're not going to take him out. And I do think the consistencies in Alex Orgy's throwing the football, I mean, those are valid. Those concerns maybe were valid. We'll see though. He's 6'3", 236, special runner. Real quick, I want to see before I want to hear your thoughts on him. Everyone says Jalen Milroe, and I like that comp. I do, really, I really do. But I'll go another Bama quarterback. I'll go young Jalen Hurts, right? I mean, I see Jalen Hurts put up good numbers in the SEC. He didn't throw the ball. It was a one read. He did throw the ball, but it was one read, tuck it and run, scheming up things with Lane Kiffin there for him. But to be honest, it sounds like he has been the most consistent quarterback in fall camp, which either A is pretty concerning, or B, it means he took a step, right? And that's what I'm gonna take. That's what I'm gonna take it as. I mean, it sounds like he's standing out, and that's what you want to see. That is where the upside. That's where this potential for this Michigan team is at. If Orgy is playing quarterback and playing well.
yeah. When you're talking about upside, yes, but right now, okay, are you power rating this team significantly different based on like if someone was to tell you, oh, Jack Tuttle's playing, right? He's starting, or Alex Orji's starting. Like, are you power rating this team a lot differently depending on who the quarterback is? To me, I'm not. I really, I don't. If Alex Orji is playing really well down the stretch, or if Jack Tuttle starts and he's playing really, really well, and then he goes down, then I'm like, okay, like then you might have to shift gears about that opinion right there. But as of right now, it doesn't really matter to me who's starting at quarterback. I'm kind of power rating this team kind of in the same spot regardless.
Yeah, I'm with you too. But I do. They bring different things, right? Orgy, obviously, if you're a Michigan fan, you know this stuff. Orgy's a runner, Tuttle, he's got some mobility too, veteran injury, but he's a little bit more experienced there throwing the football. Dangle is a guy, little mobility, but also, throw the football, good arm. And then Davis is a young kid. Don't know. I mean, he'll be competing for the spot and maybe the backup spot, but I don't know if you're really relying on him too much in his true freshman campaign. But listen,
Probably probably red shirt, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah. Hopefully, if you're a Michigan fan, I think hopefully
yeah, yeah, that
he's
is the hope.
redshirting. Either got injuries or no one else is really standing out. But listen, I hope Orgy wins the job because I think what he can do running the football, pairing with a backfield that's really, really talented, even though you lose a guy like Blake Corum. Listen, Donovan Edwards gets a lot of hype this offseason, deservingly so. He had a really good Washington game in the national championship game. He's on the cover of the NCAA football, college football 25, but he just didn't have the juice that I was hoping him to have in 2023. I was pretty underwhelmed with him at times. I know he's banged up, right? But if he can get back to that 2022 version, this offense significantly takes an upgrade, in my opinion, right? You pair him with a physical runner like Khalil Mullings, a little bit more ground and pound, right? Workhorse, physical bruiser type running back that you love in the Big Ten. To me, those two, Thunder and Lightning and Orgy, right? That's really nice to have.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, if Donovan Edwards is not like the Donovan Edwards that we saw from his true freshman year, like, are you worried about this running back room, or do you still think it can produce at a decent level?
Listen, Edwards was solid last year. I think Mullings can be really good. I mean, he averaged 6.2 yards per carry. I know it was a small sample size, 36 carries. I get that. But listen, Blake Corum was so, so good for you last year. And your O line probably takes a step down, but I don't think to the drastic, sense that maybe some national pundits or if you're not connected to the program thinks it may be. But Mullings, I think, is a really good running back. I know a lot of guys I trust that are Michigan fans really, really like him and what he can do for this offense. And maybe the change of pace that they can have that Edwards brings.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that for sure. Let's
Behind him,
go.
though, I mean, Benjamin Hall, young kid. I mean, talented for sure. But I don't think you want to be getting into your third and fourth running backs in this room.
So then let's talk about the receivers because they didn't really get anyone.
Amore and Walker, I guess. I mean, he comes back. He was
Yeah,
at Ole Miss for half a second, and then
but
he's switching over from cornerback to wide receiver.
is he going to be significant in this offense? I don't know that he is. Like, if they didn't really bring anyone in that's going to be a huge impact day one, does that mean that they, maybe missed on some guys because, there's a coaching staff change and stuff is happening, or did they just not want to go get guys like because they feel good about the room? Like, how do you feel about this? I'm a little bit cautious about this room.
Listen, everyone wants a stud wide receiver in the portal. I'm sure if, CJ Daniels or whoever those top wide receivers were in the portal, Isaiah Bond, I'm sure if they called Michigan, Sherrone Moore would pick up the phone. Absolutely. And I do think the loss of Roman Wilson, Cornelius Johnson, that hurts. Roman Wilson was really, really good. He was clutch. He made big time catches. Even for a smaller dude, I mean, he made some really nice catches. But I do think they feel solid about the young guys that have been developing behind them. Tyler Morris is a guy, same high school as JJ McCarthy, right? Coming from Nazareth, Illinois. I really like his game. He'll probably be the leading wide receiver. I think Samaj Morgan, I mean, I don't quite expect him to take a massive jump, but as a gadget guy, really, really exciting. Run after catch. You can have some plays, creativity drawn up for him. Frederick Moore sounds like he's turning heads, behind the scenes. I just think the reality is that you had coaching change late in the cycle. You've got a quarterback room that's pretty unsettled. You have a history of running the football a lot. And you've got a tight end that's really, really, really good. Two tight ends that are really good. You run two
So,
tight end sets a lot. I don't know if the attraction of Michigan was there from top end wide receivers. And I think if you're bringing in like, your B and C tier wide receivers in the portal, I don't know how much of an upgrade they are from guys like Morris and Morgan and Moore. What a
do you
law
think
firm name,
you
by
think
the way.
Amarian as Morgan Morris and more? Do you think Amarian Stewart is gonna have to play early, and like, do you think he's gonna have to like make a big impact here? Because I'm kind of I'm kind of thinking that he needs to step up in some way, right? Like especially if someone goes down, right? Because like when I look at the
Yeah.
depth in this receiver room, I'm not seeing a lot of experience here at all.
I mean, CJ Charleston's coming from Youngstown State as well, who's got a lot of experience there, but again, you're going to have a change of, the playing skill issue and whatnot. And Marion Stewart's a guy, I don't quite expect him to come in and produce in the Big Ten. If he is being relied upon, that is not an ideal situation, I think, for Michigan, especially breaking in a new quarterback. I think that's when you're going to be seeing a lot more two running back, two tight end sets. If you're getting down to guys like Amarian Stewart, the freshman, very high in his upside, very high in his future at Michigan for sure. But you're hoping those top three receivers and whatever a Amorian Walker can give you as a deep threat is good enough to last you this year. But I think Morris is a guy, he impressed last year. I think people are sleeping on him and what he can be as a wide receiver one for Michigan. Maybe not in the Big Ten, but for Michigan for sure.
Okay, so you mentioned the tight end position, right? Colson Loveland. He's a pretty dang good tight end,
Pretty dang good.
dude. He's a really good tight end. 62 targets, 649 yards, 4 touchdowns. Yeah, he was an integral part of that offense last year. I know they also had AJ Barner from Indiana, the Indiana transfer, but like Colson Loveland was the dude at the tight end position last year. He was the dude.
Yeah, he had the longest reception of anyone in that team last year, 54 yards. I mean, yeah, well, you could just say so many good things about him. And obviously, you lose AJ Barner, who was really, really solid for you, veteran Big Ten guy that Michigan had, and they like to run their two tight end sets. Marlon Klein, the rumor and the reports out of Michigan camp is that he's really, really emerging. He is a guy with tremendous upside and what the athletic ability that Colson Loveland has, right? And Marlon Klein can bring as well, a young kid in that room. That's pretty exciting. I think what you could do there is a lot of things. And obviously, you're going to run the football. So you have to have tight ends that could block. And that's where, hopefully young kids like Zach Marshall, Dakin Tonielli that come
Well,
in
Max
and
Bredesen.
block. I'm sorry. Yeah, yeah. Da. Max President's back. Yeah, yeah. Good call. Good catch.
So yeah, they're set in tight end. The offensive line, like it can be good. I think it can. I think it'd be good. I think it's going to be pretty solid. And I also think that they have guys behind their starters that are also pretty solid as well. Um, but I don't know. Like you're missing a lot of guys from last year's team. Of course, Zach Zinter being one. There's always a question mark, right, about like when you have that good of an offensive line, right, and you don't kind of retain any of that continuity. There's obviously going to be a question, right? I don't. I think it can be pretty good. I just don't know how good it's going to be. I don't know if it's going to be as dominant as it was last year, right? And like Donovan Edwards to not produce with the offensive line that they had last year makes me a little bit nervous in that run game, at least.
Yeah, I don't think, but listen, I think there's continuity in the second team group. I mean, the second team group,
Yeah.
you've got guys like Crippen, El Hadi, Gentry. Those guys came up together at Michigan. That's pretty exciting to see that they can all play together. I mean, it's probably gonna be Gentry at right tackle. You got Jeff Percy as well fighting there. Evan Link sounds like he's turning heads. He's a young kid. But I'm gonna assume that it is Gentry. Very, very physical run blocker for them. Former high recruit as well. But Preeb comes in from Northwestern. I think that's really nice. I do think it's going to take a step down, right? But I still think the floor is just so, so high with this group. I mean, you've got a bunch of guys. I know they don't have a ton of experience necessarily, but experience in the locker room, experience in the position groups at practice, being developed by Sharon Moore and that staff, weight room. I don't see any reason why it can't be a strength for them on your offense. And that's probably why you're leaning towards, running the football a lot, having a couple tight ends, and just getting back to smash around football. I do think, though, you saw them really impose their will against Penn State, right, last year, and they just ran the ball, right, the entire second half. I don't know if you're going to see that level of dominance, like you said, that level of dominance remains to be seen. But
Or I
I'm
guess
still
like
not
Ohio's
worried.
like, yeah, they impose their will on teams. Like, and that's how they won football games. You know?
Washington, yeah, they just yes, absolutely. They moved Washington, and that's how Sherrone wants it for sure. The concerns with Edwards, and I guess we'll keep going back to Edwards. I don't know. I'm I don't know if I don't know. This room I feel really good about. Like I don't think it's going to be a bad room. I don't think it's going to be a reason why they don't win football games. They're still so old and talented there. It's how it should look. It's exactly how it should look for Michigan is you lose a bunch of guys to the NFL, right? And you just replace them with old veteran, in terms of being there on
Knowing the
on
system, not
campus.
necessarily snaps, aside from like Miles Hinton.
Yeah. Well, and Preeb's a guy, you could come and just plug a spot, boom. 29 starts, former All Big Ten, boom. Just plug him in there.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah, and he's got more snaps than college football than any of those guys. So yeah, I'm with you. I just don't know. I guess expectations are skewed a little bit, of course, because of the results of last year's um team, winning the national championship. But you're right. This offensive line should be good. I'm concerned, not concerned. Their winning total is 8.5, 9, or 8.5, 9 wins. So I guess like grading it on a different scale, I guess, than other teams.
Yeah.
Is what it
As
comes
you
down to.
should. As you should. I
And
mean, I don't think
now
it's gonna be Georgia's. I don't think it's gonna be like Georgia's O
no,
line, zero holes, so good, and they return everybody. Well, it's
experienced.
gonna be. But I think come November, where you're playing, or late October, you're playing Oregon, you're playing Ohio State, you're hoping to push a run in December and into January. There's no reason why this offensive line cannot click and be moving, moving bodies.
Well, here's why you're also optimistic about that offensive line, because if you look at that defensive line that they have to go against in practice every single day, and yeah, we're going to talk about it right now. The defensive line begins with Mason Graham, ends with guys like Cameron Brandt. I mean, like, this is a very, very good defensive line. Okay. Mason Graham, one of the best players in college football. Kenneth Grant is also up there as well. Derek Moore and Josiah Stewart are fantastic, fantastic guys in the 3 and 5 tech. I mean, it's just an insanely good defensive line that's going to get pressure on the quarterback. It's going to stuff the run. They got size, they got speed, they got athleticism, they got strength, power, whatever it is you want, right? They're going to have that. So I guess if you want to look optimistically for the offensive line, this is the best defensive line they're going to go against all year. So
Well, yeah. I'll say for sure. Yeah, yeah. And they're
even
probably the
even
best
even
in the
Ohio
country.
State's,
And Oregon. Oregon's got a really good one too.
but it's I still think it's better.
And Minnesota. No, I'm kidding. But
John
regardless,
Joyner,
so John Joyner. Speaking of, studs on the edge, just Josiah Stewart and Derek Moore, those guys, I think you're going to see them be brought into the spotlight even more than they were last year. Mason Graham, Kenny Grant, they're going to get their pressure interiorly, and you have to have edges be able to close on quarterbacks, and they do, man. Everything you want. And what's interesting too is Wink Martindale comes in, right? And he's a guy that's known for being uber aggressive, getting in the quarterback, blitzing. Here's the thing, though. I don't think you have to blitz, and if Michigan's coming out against Fresno and Texas and USC, and they're blitzing a ton,
which is what Wink loves to do.
that's gonna be a little concerning to me. I think your best bet is just let them go. And what do I know, right? What do I know? But let these guys really, really feast on what they can do internally. Just four or five guys and get after it. Although I know Barham's really good at blitzing as well at the linebacker spot. But listen, even guys like TJ Guy and Noetta, those are guys that could really, really flash. You mentioned Cam Brandt. Well done. Well done, Jim Harbaugh and this staff, previously for recruiting and developing, retaining, building guys. And they didn't take a single transfer because they didn't have to, and because no one probably could start on their defensive line in the portal.
Yeah, it's best defensive line in the country, probably. And the linebacker spot, you're still really good, right? Ernest Hausman from Nebraska last year I thought he was going to play more, and he didn't have to, which was good. This guy who's experienced. He's good at football. Um, I'm assuming he's probably going to be playing Mike. Jashawn Barham, who we mentioned earlier, coming from Maryland, is very, very, very good. So and I think those guys are going to love playing behind that defensive line, and they're going to look a lot better than they're already good football players, but they're going to look even better behind that defensive line. It's just going to be easy cleanup for those guys.
With the athletes in that room and playing behind that D line,
Yeah,
yeah, like you said, they will look
Hausman's a great
so
tackler, by
good.
the way.
Oh yeah. Oh, he was
Great
so good as a
tackler.
true freshman in the Big Ten. He played so well. And he transferred to Michigan knowing he was probably going to sit behind some studs, right? Junior Colson, Michael Barrett off the NFL.
I thought
He
he had a
came
chance to start last year, but
and he played a lot and he
yeah, he
played
did.
snaps and he
Played in
flashed.
every game.
Sure. But it's more like he sat, he learned, he developed, he grew, and now he's that guy. And listen, Colson was so good, and Barrett was unbelievable as well. But Houseman and Barham, I wonder if their upside, dare I say, is higher than Colson and Barrett. I know those are two NFL guys, but make no mistake, Houseman and Barham are going to be in the NFL as well, right? I don't
Yeah.
know. I think he'd be so good. What you can do, blitzing and scheming and holy cow, especially when you've got the secondary that you have behind them, even though you've had injuries and portaling and whatnot, graduations, this defense is really, really good. And I think it's nothing but exciting. Behind those two, though, I want to ask you, I don't know much about Hood and Ryder and Pollard. Here's the thing, though, like this is a spot with Michigan that I just trust in their development, in their scouting, at guys in their third and fourth year if they need to, can step in and play solid for you.
Well, just Graham and Grant eating up blocks, and you were a guy who played Mike, at 5'7", right? Like, how much easier was it? And we ran a 3-3 stack, but just when they were able to chip those guards and take out those center, how much easier was it for you, someone who was undersized and inexperienced when you played and had 206 tackles? How much easier was it playing behind a defensive line that just did their jobs? And in Michigan's case, not only are they going to do their jobs, they're going to absolutely blow shit up.
It was in trusting and knowing where your run fits are going to be is everything. And that's something that Hausman and Barham and the guys behind them are going to have because they trust those guys up front to be in good spots. And you're going to create the offensive line is going to create holes, right? But if you know where they're going to be and where you're supposed to be, yeah, it's so much easier to play instead of covering 5 gaps, you're covering 1.5 gaps if you've got guys like Graham and Grant, two gap and whatnot.
Well, let's move on over to the secondary. It starts with Will Johnson, obviously, just ridiculously good cornerback, probably one of the better ones in the entire country. I don't know if he's the best. I'd have to think about that, but it has to be in the conversation, right? It has to be. This is the room where they got the most transfers. So, Rod Moore, unfortunately, towards ACL in the spring. I believe it was his ACL. Whatever it was, not good. He unfortunately will probably not be available if I had to guess for the season, which is unfortunate because he's a very good football player, and I would imagine he would have had a big impact in the secondary. So I guess enter, Wesley Walker, coming in there, transferring in there. Is he going to just kind of take Rod Moore's spot there?
Well, I mean, you got also Jaden Manham, right? A guy who was an all Big Ten guy in Michigan State. I think Walker and Manham. I mean, you took Jaden Manham out of that after in the spring portal, right? So after Rod Moore goes down. But you also got Quentin Johnson in there too. He's a guy that knows the system. He's a guy that can, has been playing and developing pretty well in there. 3 guys fighting for one spot, competitive depth. You love that. You love that, especially at a position that's quote unquote of need or of, that you're thin at. I think it's pretty solid. Walker, does not like him. I expect it to be Magnum, right? I feel like he can be a guy and be a playmaker behind those guys, those studs up front. Because if you are pressuring the quarterback, you're forcing early reads. to be an opportunistic defense in that secondary would be really, really massive, especially if you're creating short fields, flipping the fields, changing games, changing momentum, whatever it may be. First, maybe a young offense, right, that you have there. It's everything. And I think Magnum's a guy that can really be a playmaker for them. Will Johnson, you mentioned him. Aside from him, whoever it's going to be is going to be getting a lot of targets. You better be drinking your Gatorade. You better be having your pickle juice, whatever it may be. You're going to be working a lot because you're just not going to test Will Johnson. Jair Hill, Amar Hall, right, those are two guys that are probably fighting for that spot. Jair Hill sounds like he's solidifying himself as a CB2. It's pretty encouraging, right? Because his talent is undeniable. He is young, he's long, he's fast, physical. Right? He comes in competing a guy like Amar Hall, who's also fast and physical, maybe a little bit higher floor than Hill, but the ceiling is there with Jair Hill. And it sounds like if he's winning that job, that means he's hitting his ceiling. Really good news for Michigan fans, not good news for Big Ten quarterbacks. And then at nickel spot, McBurrows and Zeke Berry, right? A couple of guys, similar, concept to that second cornerback spot. One's high floor, one's high ceiling. They gave you different lengths, different looks that you can have. Versatility. I think Wink Martindale talked about where he's like, we want to be multiple, we want to be versatile, we want to be different because you're going to be playing so many different schemes in the Big Ten. And something we haven't really touched on much, but that's the reality. You've got USC, even Texas this year. You've got Washington with a new system, Minnesota, Illinois, you're running the football, right? You've got Indiana with, JMU influence coming in there. You got Oregon coming over with Willie Stein. Ohio State's obviously with Chip Kelly and what they can do. And then also if you're Michigan, right, you're hoping to go to that college football playoffs, you're going to see another team that's multiple as well. And what they can do in their scheme offensively, it bodes well for you to have a defense with versatility, with depth, with experience. Yeah.
Yeah, versatility, I think, is the key in the secondary. I mean, you just have enough pieces that Wink Martindale is going to be able to do something. I know you talked about not wanting to blitz a lot and not needing to blitz a lot, but I think if you're fresh all the time, right, and you
Yeah.
have guys that are only playing, 400 snaps in a season instead of Will Johnson will play 700, 800 snaps, depending
Hopefully
on
that.
if they make the playoffs. But if you have guys playing 400, 450 snaps that are just fresh, ready to go, like, why can't you get aggressive? Why can't you just go gonzo? Why can't you just go crazy and put these guys in binds and be fresh? I think they have so many pieces here in the secondary. It's going to look a little bit different than last year. Of course, you lose Keon Sabb in the transfer portal, but I don't feel like you're missing a really good talent, obviously, but I don't think it's dire. It's not a dire need. I think this defense is absolutely loaded at all three levels.
I'm with you. And by the way, if you cover too, if you got corners and safeties that can cover, you can blitz. And you can feel pretty good about that and leaving those guys on islands. And that creates a lot of headaches for some offensive lines that you're going to be dealing with in the Big Ten.
Yeah, and let's go into their win total and schedule. Their win total is at 9, I believe. I'm gonna double check that, but their schedule, look, they got some marquee games in here, but I mean, pretty manageable. Other than that, I think 9 is a fantastic line. By the way, I think it's a really good line. You get Fresno State at home to open it up. You get Texas at home to open it up. Or sorry, the week after, Arkansas State at home, not a gimme. USC at home, Minnesota at home, Washington on the road. Then you get a bye. Then you get Illinois on the road, Michigan State at home, Oregon at home, at Indiana, bye week, then Northwestern at home, then you go to Ohio State. The reason why I say that schedule is manageable is because of the games that are not Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State, right? If you look at it in terms of from a power rating standpoint, like those teams alone account for a lot of it, and you could argue that their schedule is very strong. I just think that I think they're going to overpower potentially a lot of these teams on here, and I think 9 wins is very likely, but that's why it's at 9 wins. You can get it 8.5 in some places. I believe when I was looking,
FanDuel's got an 8.5. It's 8.5. It's minus 162 when we're recording, and for the over and the under is plus 132. Under 8 wins. Oh, under 8.5, so I guess 8 wins.
Gosh, I just have a hard time, dude, seeing like with his defense, seeing that team win only 8 games.
That's the thing. It's like
Like I don't think I think 9-3 is like what I think that's what this team accomplishes. I think they dropped to Texas because I think Texas, although that'll be an interesting game. I think that the trench battle in that game is going to be bonkers. I think they lose to Ohio State finally. I think Oregon at home is a really, really interesting one because Dylan Gabriel, like as experienced, as veteran as he is, man, like being that small, getting interior pressure on Dylan Gabriel is going to be a problem.
yeah,
It's going to be a problem. And you lose a guy like Jackson Powers Johnson on that Oregon team, and we'll talk
a couple
about
young
that.
guys there on the interior.
Couple young guys. I think 10-2 is more likely than 8-4. So I have to go over. Not a bet at all in any way.
No,
It does
is
8.5. Oh
at eight
my
and a half. I'm
gosh.
taking it. Listen,
I'm
I'm looking at
laying it.
FanDuel. I've been taking all my lines through FanDuel. At 9, I'll push because I can't take the under and I can't take the over. But
But I'll make you pick one.
over.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But at 8.5, I'm pounding the over, comma. I gotta see what happens with the suspensions. Again, like disclaimer, again, I don't know what's gonna happen. Listen, if I knew that they weren't gonna get suspended, nothing was gonna happen until after the season, I would be pounding that over. Because first of all, by the way, if you're a season ticket holder, not to go on a tangent, you feel really good in a non-Ohio State season, right? You get Texas, you get USC, and you get Oregon coming in. That is incredible. Not to mention Jeff Tedford and Fresno State as well. That is awesome. And we did a thing where we talked about, how tough their schedule is going to be this year, and it is at the top end. We talked about them going to a
Yep.
playoffs. It is, and I think the middle of the pack. The thing is, the floor on this team is so, so high. Even if Orgy or whoever's quarterback has an off game, it doesn't matter. You're going to sleepwalk and beat Minnesota. You can travel to Washington and beat them again. Illinois,
Indiana.
Michigan State, Indiana, Northwestern, Arkansas State, Fresno State, all those teams, right? USC scares you a little bit just
Although
because of the talent.
Northwestern though, oh that game
Well,
before
they're
Ohio
gonna,
State is always so scary for
but
Michigan.
they sleepwalk through them and they still win, right? It doesn't. Listen, yeah, I'm with you though.
Well, they
But
should have
hey,
lost to Illinois, and then they almost lost to Maryland.
gotta ask you a question here though. At 9-3, let's call it 9-3. We
No,
don't know what happens elsewhere in the country, but do you feel like they deserve a spot in the
no,
playoffs?
no,
How about 3 close losses to
no.
Texas? Okay, how about
What are the wins? What are the
Minnesota?
wins?
Minnesota.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. If they go 10-2, like, and they have a premier win, especially if they beat Ohio State, like they're
can I ask
absolutely
you
in.
this though? Let's say you sub out Texas for UNLV, like they played last year, and you go 10-2. You're probably going to the playoffs, right?
Yeah, because look, and
But that's the thing is like,
and I'm an
what
SEC guy, so people are gonna like come at me and be like, because the SEC, like the
8
losses matter
conference
more
games?
than wins, in the SEC, which is not. I'm not a believer in that, right? I'm a believer in like if you win the football game, right? Now there's a difference between going 12-0 against a bozo schedule, right, and 10-2 against this schedule. Obviously, uh, like you can. I just think like if you don't beat Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State, and your best win of the season is against a USC team that's not even power rated in the top 25, like, why do you deserve a chance to play for the national championship?
That's my thinking is you have played playoff games. You played 3 playoff games
Yes, you
in
played
the
three.
regular
Yes.
season. Like that's where your chances were to win these games. And if you're a Michigan fan, yeah, it's pretty understandable. And you've
If Florida goes 9-3, I would be very interested to hear the argument, depending on who they beat, right? I still don't think a 9-3 team should really get in most circumstances.
well, we'll see. We'll see what they do with the ACC and the Big 12 and how many bids, how many conference bids they have. But I do think you're going to see teams in the SEC, in the Big 10, you're going to lose multiple games. Like there's going to be some of the teams at the top end of the conference losing multiple games, and they're going to be frustrated that I don't think they're going to be put in. And Michigan might be one of them, but
Well, here's the thing, like You could have a team like Michigan run the floor, right, and go um like if you have bid stealers, then 9-3 is not doable as a wild like uh,
No,
as an at large. It's just not doable, right? So you have to watch out for the bid stealers, which in most years there's not really bid stealers unless like a quarterback injury happens. Um, yeah, I'm just I don't think 9-3 should get Michigan in. I know because where's the win, right? Where's the win?
that's the thing. But it's pretty impressive though that this team loses everything that they lost, and they still are going to be one of the teams that are fighting for a spot in the playoffs. Really, really impressive. And in a coaching changeover and all the offseason distractions, working in a new quarterback. Michigan, I mean, they've been back, right? But it's pretty nice to see Michigan as like a team every year that you feel pretty good about competing for a spot in the playoffs and the Big Ten championship.